She left, but I thought everything was fine. We barely argued. She said she loved me, then walked away. These are the words of countless men left confused, heartbroken, and trying to make sense of what went wrong. But here's the truth. Women rarely leave on a whim. They leave slowly, emotionally, long before they physically walk out the door. And in this video, we're going to talk about why. Why women leave men even when love is still there. By the end of this video, you'll hear the most common reason most men never see coming and what to do about it. Let's begin with a hard truth. Love alone is not enough. A woman can love you deeply and still leave you. Because what she's craving isn't always fireworks. It's safety, connection, emotional presence. What leads to her departure is almost never a single moment. It's a pattern. A slow erosion of trust, intimacy, and feeling emotionally seen. It starts small. She expresses her feelings. You shrug it off. She says, "We never talk anymore." You say, "We're just busy." She asks for time together. You promise next weekend. Then forget. Each moment feels harmless. But they add up. And inside her, something shifts. She doesn't stop loving you. She stops feeling safe to love you. And that is when the leaving begins. Let's go deeper. The emotional erosion. It's not the big fights that end relationships. It's the silence between them. A woman can endure arguments, disagreements, even temporary distance. But what she cannot survive is emotional starvation. She starts to feel like she's shouting into a void. She tries to explain how she feels, but you get defensive. She tells you she's lonely, and you say, "But I'm right here." She asks for help, and you say, "Just tell me what to do." But what she really wants is for you to care enough to notice without her always having to ask. To see her. To ask how she's doing, not just what she's doing. To check in, not just check out. To feel her before she breaks down. Because the thing is, most women don't just leave. They warn you. In their own way, in a quiet tone, in subtle signs, they say, "I miss us. I feel like I'm doing everything alone. I don't feel appreciated." And if those warnings are met with excuses, distractions, or jokes, a part of her begins to shut down. That's the emotional erosion. That's when the clock starts ticking. She no longer feels like a priority. She feels like a roommate. She feels like a mother to a man instead of a partner to a lover. She loves you, but she's tired. Not of you, but of feeling like she's doing this relationship alone. That's when she starts imagining life without you. Not because she wants to, but because she needs to survive. Because emotional neglect can be just as painful as betrayal. And the worst part? When she finally leaves, it's not because she stopped caring. It's because she cared too long, too deeply, and with too little in return. And now, her heart is empty. The masculine disconnect. Here's something most men don't realize. When a woman says, "I don't feel heard," she's not saying you never listen. She's saying you're not connecting. You might hear her words, but you're missing her heart. You're problem-solving instead of being present. You're offering logic when she needs empathy. You're trying to fix her pain instead of feeling it with her. To many men, this seems confusing. You think, if she tells me what's wrong, I'll just solve it. But emotional connection isn't about solutions. It's about witnessing her experience without minimizing it. She says, "I'm overwhelmed." You say, "You're overthinking." She says, "I'm hurt by what you said." You say, "I didn't mean it that way." She says, "I feel alone." You say, "But I'm right next to you." And in each of those moments, she feels more alone than ever. Because presence isn't measured by proximity. It's felt through emotional availability. When she opens up, she doesn't need you to defend yourself. She needs to know, do you care that I'm hurting? And when you respond with deflection or irritation, she starts telling herself, I can't reach him. He doesn't get it. I'm on my own. This is how masculine disconnection creates feminine withdrawal. She doesn't shut down out of malice. She shuts down for self-preservation. She lowers her expectations. She stops bringing things up. She stops initiating affection. And that's when men usually say, she changed. She became cold. She stopped trying. But the truth is, she gave up after giving everything for far too long. The silent grief before she leaves. By the time a woman leaves, she's already grieved the relationship 100 times. Every unreciprocated gesture, every ignored emotion, every lonely night beside someone who feels 1,000,000 miles away. Those were little funerals in her heart. And she cried. Not always on the outside, sometimes only in the shower, or lying in bed facing the wall. But she cried, and you didn't notice. That's when she began to detach. Not to punish you, but to protect the last pieces of herself that hadn't been swallowed by the relationship. You may have thought she was nagging you, but she was fighting for you. For us. For hope. When she stopped complaining, that wasn't peace. That was resignation. She stopped because she no longer believed change was possible. She stopped because repeating herself became more painful than being unheard. She stopped because you became a stranger to her. And she didn't know how to reach you anymore. And in that silence, she began to plan her exit. Not out of spite, but out of emptiness. She started imagining what it would feel like to be seen again. To be touched with intention. To be asked, how are you, really, and know the answer mattered. She began to imagine a version of herself that smiled again. And a partner who noticed the difference. And when she finally says, I'm done, you're shocked. Because you didn't see the 100 moments that came before it. You didn't see the slow death of her hope. You didn't notice the grieving that started long before she packed her bags. When love isn't enough, here's the paradox. She still loves you, but she can't stay. Because love, without presence, becomes pain. Love, without attention, becomes a wound. Love, without change, becomes a reason to leave. It's not that she wants to go. It's that she no longer knows how to stay without losing herself. She tried everything. Talking, crying, being patient, even blaming herself. She thought maybe if she worked harder, things would get better. Maybe if she was sexier, softer, less emotional, more independent. Maybe then you'd see her again. But the more she tried to earn your love, the more invisible she became. Until one day, she realized. She was fighting for someone who stopped fighting for her a long time ago. And in that moment, she stopped. She stopped asking for your attention. She stopped trying to prove her worth. She stopped believing that the relationship could survive on her love alone. Because it takes two people to make it work. And she was doing both jobs. She was the lover, the nurturer, the peacemaker, the planner, the glue. And you? You were there. But not with her. So now she's walking away. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she finally started loving herself. When men wake up too late, there's a tragic moment that happens in so many relationships. And it looks like this. She leaves. And suddenly, he changes. He starts going to therapy. He writes long messages pouring out his heart. He promises to do better. He finally says all the words she begged to hear for years. But now she's already gone. And here's the painful truth. Most men don't realize what they had. Until the silence replaces her voice. Until the bed feels colder than ever. Until no one is waiting for them at home. That's when it hits. Not because they didn't love her, but because they assumed she'd always be there. They confused her loyalty with limitlessness. They thought, she'll never leave. She's just emotional. She needs time. But what she needed was a partner, not a promise. She wanted you to fight for her while she was still trying. Not when she'd already cried herself empty. Not when she'd moved into a friend's place. Not when her heart had finally grown quiet after screaming for so long. And this is where regret lives. In the gap between what you know now and what you didn't do then. Because when she was soft, you didn't listen. When she was still open, you didn't show up. When she was hurting, you looked away. And now? Now, the man you've become. The man who's present, open, willing to grow. He's too late for her. The final realization and what to do next. So here you are. You've heard the truth no one told you. You've seen the slow unraveling, the invisible signs, the quiet heartbreak that preceded her leaving. And maybe you're thinking, I wish I had known this sooner. But now the question becomes, what will you do with what you now know? Because this isn't just about her. This is about every relationship you'll ever have. It's about breaking a cycle. It's about realizing that love isn't just a feeling, it's a practice. It's presence. It's awareness. It's doing the small things before they become the last things. If she's still there, show up now. Not with flowers, not with speeches. With your attention. With your willingness to listen without defense. With your desire to learn her again. And if she's already gone, don't beg. Don't chase. Become the version of you that she was crying out for. Not for her, but for yourself. For the man you were always capable of becoming, but maybe too scared or distracted to become. Because the truth is, women don't leave because they stop loving. They leave because they feel alone in their love. And men don't lose women because they're bad people. They lose them because they forgot that love needs to be nurtured. So, if this story resonates with you, don't let it just be a sad tale. Let it be a wake-up call. And if you're watching this with pain in your chest, with regret in your heart, remember, the man who heals is always more powerful than the man who hides. The man who shows up emotionally will always build deeper love than the man who just does the right things. And the man who learns from his losses? He doesn't stay broken. He becomes unbreakable. Belle, if this video made you feel something, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear this.